welcome to episode number 90 of the BEBC
BS
Podcast. Number 90, fellas.
Brandon Turner, 2008.
All right.
Defensive lineman. Who, this year?
Zena.
Zena.
Now,
Bad
he
dude.
was 90 last year. I don't know if he's changing his number for this year or not. We'll
Did you get a roster? You just got a roster.
I didn't get it yet.
Oh, okay. All right. We got one coming.
It's almost scrimmage season. You don't have a roster yet.
I asked.
Come on.
Now, this is no. I texted Coach yesterday, and I even told these guys that, and he responded within 30 seconds. I was like, "Wow,
That's refreshing.
new and
That's refreshing.
in this
That's
era."
great.
And he said, "I'll send you one. Give me your email." And I haven't got it yet. And I told Sherry, I said, "Man, I don't want to ask again. I don't feel like a nuisance." But he's busy.
Yeah.
You know, so we'll get it. But number 90 for Zena this year. We should have a big year.
Should.
As a junior,
Yeah.
got him a whole other year.
I know.
Yep.
That's awesome.
We're so spoiled.
Yeah, we are spoiled. And we're spoiled today because we have another guest.
We do.
And for all of you who don't know, this is the man
The myth, the
who
legend.
hates your team every week. I promise you, no matter who your team is, he doesn't like them. Professor Diggs.
But especially one team that might fall under the purview of active dislike.
We'll have to get into that because I have no idea what he just said because he is a professor and that's way above my head. Professor Matt Diggs with us today.
Yay. Welcome, Matt. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. Considering our history, which I'm sure we're going to get into,
We
I'm
are.
surprised you even brought me over here.
Well,
Nolan did it.
you know,
Run away.
yeah, Nolan was setting this up as we were talking about our visit with Chris Cumnott last week, and Nolan put it out there, and you agreed to come, and you said as long as it wasn't in the morning.
As long as it isn't in the morning. It's football season.
Yeah.
Here, here.
It is.
Yeah.
And so we're going to get into a lot of different things today because there's a lot for us to talk about. For those who don't know Matt, you know, Matt is what I consider, you know, Texas high school football media elite. And I want to get into that to understand how you got to this point because it's impressive to me, your knowledge and what you put out every Friday night.
Yeah.
Saturday morning is where it typically starts.
Your late night rants. Yeah.
Yep.
And you're the OG, one of the OGs of the Texas media mafia, right?
Yes.
Awesome. Tell.
There you go.
Fill us in.
I mean,
Well, let's. hang
Okay,
on.
okay.
I want to go way back.
Go way
Because
back.
Way back.
We know you, but we really don't know you. I said this before we started, so I want to go back to. Let's talk about little Matt Diggs. Born where?
Born where? In Baltimore, Maryland.
Wow.
And, I came here to Texas pretty much immediately.
Okay.
And I grew up and lived in East Plano.
All right.
Imagine that. And I went to Dooley Elementary, then I went to Armstrong Middle School in Williams, and then I went to a little school in East Plano called Plano East.
A little school. Okay, so when you went, how big was Plano East?
I mean, it was pretty big.
Yeah, for that time.
I mean, and Plano East was rolling. You know, we
Oh, yeah.
we were one of the teams back then.
Yep. So what years would this been?
93 and 94.
Okay.
And in 1994, there was a game you may have heard about, a world famous game, my senior year.
Oh, boy.
Now, I didn't play football. I always have to make sure I throw that out there. I was not a football player, but I was a football fan, and I was in attendance that fateful evening at Texas Stadium
Oh, my
with
gosh.
Plano East and John Tyler, and it fundamentally changed my world that
Okay.
day. I mean, you go from the highest high. We just did the most amazing thing ever. We're finally going to win a state championship. And I mean, I went to elementary school with these kids. So,
Yeah.
I mean, these are my friends. These are people I know. Josh Taft. I mean, he was a Dooley Dragon with me back in 5th grade. And he was an all-state linebacker, ended up at University of Texas. And this was finally going to be it. You know, we'd always been in Plano's shadow. It was time to break out and go our own way, and then that kickoff that no one will ever forget.
For those of you who don't know what he's talking about, I'm just going to say go to YouTube and Google John Tyler, Plano East, the last 2 minutes of the game, from 1994.
1994.
And you'll understand what he's been living with ever since.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's almost like being a Chicago Cubs fan, except 10 times multiplied. Except Chicago finally won something.
They did.
And we're still waiting on this. And that game was just heartbreaking. I mean, I was drained after that game. For 16-year-old me was drained after that. So I always knew after that point, I promised myself I would not miss a Plano East game until they won a state championship. I made a promise right then. And unfortunately, that's had some side effects over the last 25 years, as I'm very stubborn, and I've stuck to that quite a bit. And ever since then, I've not missed a Plano East game.
That's impressive.
And
good for you for sticking to your vow.
I've stuck to my vow. And over the last decade, it's been some lean times, but it was even fun for a little while up till about 2005. We got the birth of the rivalry with Allen. And we beat Allen in the playoffs one year, and okay, life is still good. Things are good. We beat them the next year. Then
what, 19 years or so?
22, 23. I think it was 99. Was
Okay.
our last win over Allen.
Yep.
This is the first year ever we're not playing Allen. So
Unless
first round of the playoffs. First round of the playoffs.
it could happen.
Could happen.
Wow.
We'll have to do a live podcast from the tailgate.
There you go. We can do that.
Now the way things are working, it'll probably be at Eagle Stadium.
Yeah.
It'll probably, that kind of.
Never know.
See.
Yeah.
The way things are projecting out, but I haven't missed a Plano East game since. So as far as that goes, I always wanted, going into college, I was trying to find out how I could go to.
Which was where?
Colin.
Okay.
Started out with Colin, and
Yep.
ended up at UNT and
Okay.
UT Dallas. But I wanted to get involved in going to football games, and I thought to myself, well, what's the best way I could get to football games? Because poor college student.
Sure.
So I sent out resumes, and I was like, who could I intern for? I'll intern for anybody. Free. Just let get me credentials. Let me go to games. And probably even Dave Campbell's, everybody. I Dallas Morning News, and only one website actually emailed me back. It was a small website called Texas Prep Football, led by a guy named Alan Zapata, and he's like, "Hey, if you want to work for me for free,
Come on.
You're my guy.
Yeah.
You're my guy."
Yeah.
So I'm 19 at this time, and he installs me. As that, I start getting on message boards. I know,
Yep.
James, you know about some message
Oh yeah, yeah,
boards.
yeah.
Get you riled up.
Been
on
around.
those things at that time. And the next year, they ended up merging with Fox Sports, and they became Texas Prep Extra, because you had Fox Sports Extra, which was the Friday night TV show, and they ended up merging with them. And all of a sudden, now I'm 20, and they throw me on. I'm the DFW guy as far as that goes. So I do this for a few years. I get under old people's skins on message boards and things like that. Even about 2005, I meet this guy. You might know him. His name is Matt Stepp.
Yeah, we've heard of him.
Another message board guy.
Right. And they became Big Matt, Little Matt.
Big Matt,
Right.
Little Matt.
Yeah.
Love sports. And just kind of progressed from there. But I realized at one point, about 2005 or 2006, love being a sports writer, but it's not. It's not going. It's not going to attract me a wife and build a family. So I kind of retired from sports writing, as far as this is going to be my career and my money making job, and went to decide I was going to be a college professor.
Right.
And I went down that road. But I still love high school football.
Sure.
Still going to every single Plano East game. About that time was, probably the one game that I still am so mad about at the double wide.
Oh.
It was
I think I know which one.
17,000 people. I mean, standing
Oh, it
room
was-
only.
it was
West Bankston, quarterback. And then y'all got a few extra seconds on a punt that you shouldn't have gotten. And a little wind-blown thing. And it kind
Was
of...
that a 98-yard punt from the 2-yard line?
Sunk our chances on that one.
Yeah.
But ended up getting involved. So I just started doing high school football kind of as a hobby at that point. Just kind of continue doing it, going to games, going to Thursday games, going to play Moose games on Friday, and just doing message board stuff. And then all of a sudden, this thing is invented called Twitter. And I don't know if you know what Twitter is, but that's a place where blowhards can go blow hard.
Yeah,
exactly.
You can just go say
Whether it's
you
under
want.
your real name or whether it's under a pseudonym.
Just say whatever. I know there's been some very active anti-Allen people who gets on some pseudonyms in there. I remember some of those.
Yeah.
It happens every now and then.
How many anti-Allen pseudonyms do you have?
I gave all mine to Nolan.
Oh,
So he's got the passwords and controls all those now.
Well, and the other thing is, how many coaches lurk under pseudonyms?
Oh, sure.
A lot.
Oh, yeah.
More than people might think.
Yeah, more than they would admit, too.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's their guilt.
Sure. Exactly.
Stir the pot, poke the bear,
Yep.
whatever. Yeah.
And one thing I've always loved doing, and I've always wanted to take high school football and give it a little bit of a ticket. I love the ticket.
Yeah.
Why today doesn't suck, and just an irreverent form of talking about the truth. And it's kind of hard with high schoolers because you can't say, "Oh, Mike Hawkins," you can't just dog on a kid.
Right. Like you can college or pros. Yeah.
And so you have
you can, but there's consequences.
there are consequences.
Yeah. Which you don't want to deal with. Yeah.
It's bad for them.
Yeah. You don't want Mama Bear coming out.
And to be clear, I love Mike Hawkins. So I'm
not calling him out.
You
Yeah.
don't want to mess with Daddy Hawkins. I can tell you that.
I'm not using him as an example of somebody I'd want to talk bad about. He's actually the example of somebody you have to look hard to find something.
Yeah.
I'm sure you're very excited about having him for 2 more years.
Yes.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So I was, I just continued on that path and just started this thing called The Dump on Friday nights.
Yep.
And I've always wanted to take high school football, make it a little more analytics based, because there are a lot of analytics that are involved in high school football. Because, how do you figure out these rankings? And, and I see the Dallas Morning News, and I've always thought I can do it better. You see these rankings, like, who are these people? Why are they ranking these teams? I've seen this team in person. They're horrible. And you got them at number 18. They're going to go 3 and 7. What's going on here? And sure enough, they end up 2 and 8 or 3 and 7. So that's also fueled my love of high school football on the coverage side. Is to let's do this well. Let's give people something to talk about. So I've been going down that path as well, and then somehow, and I think the Allen Eagles for this in a sense, because Coach Wigginton, also the Texas High School Coaching Association president, somehow they named me Sports Writer of the Year this year.
Saw that.
Congratulations! That actually is an honor. You've earned it. You have earned it.
I don't know if I've earned it, but
Well, I think your body of work is voluminous.
You're stuck with it now.
Yeah, that's right.
You have the plaque.
I have the plaque.
Yeah.
So it's just been a labor of love, and it's something that when you love it, it's like you guys doing this. If you got some sort of big name sponsor or something, it'd probably ruin it for you. From the psychology perspective, it's fun because you love it. You say that, but all of a sudden, when you start to be beholden to, classic Chevrolet, or something, and you want to talk about your Mustang or something, and they're like, you can't talk about Mustangs on your show. It's classic Chevrolet. Then you start to realize,
are we compromising too much?
Are you compromising too much? That's one thing I've tried to hold is I don't compromise.
That's good.
Anybody who wants me to work with them knows I'm going to play these games on Friday night. That's just going to be the way that is. And
so let's go back to them, and I don't know if you keep track. One of the things I appreciate about you, and this is going to offend some people, and I don't care because it's an opinion, and people should blow off opinions anyways. But I think some of the media does it for their own self-gratification or attention seeking. Or I feel you do it because I read your dump every week. When I get up Saturday morning, because I don't stay up as late as you do.
You got your cup of coffee.
Yeah.
I pull out my phone and I read your dump because it's so impressive to me that you start, at the lower classifications and go every district. And I'm just like, how does he know all that? And so what's your process for going through all of that to and I know you've got years of knowledge now, but you can go back to, okay, when you started deciding to do that, how do you get all that info? I mean, what's your process?
I mean, part of it is just if you want to understand the area, you have to understand the area.
Right.
Because if you're an Allen fan, you have to know almost everything that's going on in Region 1 because you want to kind of know, okay, what's going on.
Yep.
And, you know, if you're going to be District 5 first seed, you got to know what 7 because that's your first, you know, or 6-2. You're looking at that. Then you're looking at 7-1 because that's your second round game.
Yep.
Then you're looking at, okay, who's going to be over there. You have to kind of start managing that. And then you kind of keep an eye over there in Region 2 who might be coming out of that as a state semifinal kind of a game.
Right.
And it all really fits together like a puzzle, you know, because all of a sudden, you know, how Keller Fossil Ridge against Keller Central does determines if South Lake is going to go D1, D2, and now you're paying attention to that because you're very interested to see if South Lake is going to go D1, D2 because that's an obstacle for you guys.
Sure.
So, you know, when you start putting together all these things, it all just comes together like a puzzle because what happens in District 10 6A does impact you if you start to kind of put it in that. So you start to follow it kind of as a fan. This is important and this is important. And then you got to kind of keep an eye on West Texas. You got to kind of keep an eye on Houston. And then you start to go down to 5A and the same thing happens there. You got to put together all the puzzle pieces.
Different level, yeah.
And that's why it's so easy. And I think a lot of people, when they do high school football coverage, they don't consider the big picture of it all.
Yep.
They consider what South Lake's going to do, what DeSoto's going to do, what Duncanville's going to do. But that Keller Central Keller game is just as important to it. And once you start giving that attention, now you've got a couple more fan bases who are excited about your coverage, and then all of a sudden you're talking about fire up Rockwall and get Rockwall Heath fired up.
Every fan base wants a little attention, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
But they want positive attention.
Yeah.
I get under some people's skin.
That's easy to do. Yeah.
But to me, it's just one big puzzle, and you have to know the big puzzle if you're going to understand the big picture.
So how much time do you spend a week on high school football?
I mean, it's really not as extensive as you would think. I mean, probably 20, 30 hours, but it's fun. I love reading box scores because there are so many times you can find out, you know, oh, this team won 27-26, but they had 5 turnovers, and
That's a big factor that doesn't always get pointed out. Yeah.
Things that you don't consider, and so I'm really looking for those gems. Like, what was the story of the game?
Yeah.
And as far as that goes, if you start looking at teams, wow, they're going to have 3 turnovers consistently a game, it appears, and those aren't things that people are just going to tweet out. You know, the Booster Club isn't going to be like, hey, we're averaging 3 turnovers a game today, or right now. You know, 9 games in, we're at 27, we're minus 20 on the. You aren't going to talk about that, but now all of a sudden that team is playing another team, and they're considered a favorite by everybody. I'm like, they're going to cough up the ball at least 3 or 4 times in this game. And this other team has been playing well. They've been, and they just had some bad special teams play, but they got the kicker back, so things. I'm going to take a little bit of an upset, but I don't think it's an upset. So when you really dive in, it's just fun. It's one big story that interconnects from Trinity and 3-6A all the way down to Duncanville and DeSoto and 11-6A. And when you view it like that, it's beautiful in a sense. And it's almost poetry because everything, how many storylines are there with Duncanville and how close they've been, and
It's heartbreaking. Yeah.
I know. And it's just kind of, and even like we talked about last week with Claude Mathis, DeSoto finally gets their title when he leaves, and, now he's coming back for redemption, and the Duncanville DeSoto rivalry, but that impacts Allen, and that would impact Plano East, and it all impacts each other. So understanding these storylines, and more than any other sport, I think high school football has. If you have a game where you have South Lake against Duncanville, and they both have equal talent on the field, you can see some trends.
Yeah.
And that might be like, okay, well, in an equal kind of a game, South Lake tends to win these kind of games when there's equal talent on the field. Duncanville tends to win games when they have significantly better talent on the field. You can say until Duncanville, I use Ric Flair theory. To be the man, you got to beat the man.
That's right.
Duncanville hasn't beaten the man since Bob Albert in the 90s. So, at some point you have to understand these trends. And I feel like that's the historical side that I have, that because I've been reading the book for so long,
right?
That you get some new people who are coming in and they don't understand that data numbers and stats, and there's a lot of stories and there's a lot of tradition, and that matters more in high school football. I mean, it matters in college football as well. I mean, we talk about Arkansas and Nolan and all of those fun things, but you have to break some of the storylines, and some of that is monumental. And once you break the storyline, it's what Plano East is living with. Plano East has never won a state championship in any sport.
Oh my gosh.
They're due.
Not one.
Really?
They really are due.
Not girls volleyball, not team tennis,
swimming,
not
nothing.
golf.
Not even band. I mean, Plano East has
There
had
are
some
0
pretty remarkable.
UIL
Yeah.
championships.
Wow,
That's amazing.
that is.
And it's
That's an
almost-
amazing stat. in
It's
and of
almost
itself.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because even Plano West has won a basketball title, volleyball titles,
Yeah.
tennis titles. I mean, they've got 10, 12 state championships. And
Yeah.
they're only, 20 years old.
Mm.
Plano, they've won, even in the last 10 years, they got a basketball title. And
Yeah.
Plano East.
Dude,
I
Yeah.
know.
it's gonna be a party when something
I
happens over
know.
there.
Just
we may actually start rooting for you guys at some point. I mean,
I
you
feel
deserve
like Plano
it.
East has become everybody's second favorite team. It's like there's that little bit of the
Yeah.
Chicago Cubs
Of
in
the
them, like,
underdog,
Yeah.
yeah.
of the
Yeah.
underdog that has never won anything. You look all around us. Lovejoy has won titles, and Allen has won titles, and Wiley, Wiley East, won
Louisville. I mean,
Yeah.
titles. Everybody in our current district of Louisville, they've all
Yeah.
won titles in the last
Yeah.
2 years and something.
Wow.
Poor Reggie Samples,
Oh,
Skyline.
yeah.
He gets to Duncanville and think, oh, here I am, man. I'm
gonna do it.
We're going to do it. And then just hadn't gotten there yet.
Because he was at Lincoln.
Yeah,
before that,
Lincoln,
too. Yeah,
Skyline,
He's always had
yep.
talent. He just can't seem to.
But then you have Coach Todd,
Yeah.
who was at South Oak Cliff, and he was part of that
Yeah.
Samples tree, and he broke
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm so happy for him. and
That was
his
a really
staff.
good.
That
That was a really
was-
good team.
Yeah.
Exactly. Speaking of coaches, how much time do you spend interacting with coaches in all this? I mean, is that a big part of what you do, or
I have
not?
some coaches I can text message about any time, and,
Yep.
and they'll get back with me in 30 seconds. And
Yeah,
you
that's a
like
standard. That's a
You
standard.
like good customer service.
Yes.
And there are other coaches that I have kind of a chilly relationship with.
Yep.
And,
Mhm.
they only want positive vibes and positive coverage. And some coaches have no idea who the heck I am.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to go knock down doors and hey, I'm Matt Diggs. Do you know who I am? Kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So it's about relationships,
Sure.
and about who you know, and I have a lot of good relationships with just about all the coaches, or at least an assistant coach on the staff, to where I can really get some inside, feedback. And I feel like coaches will be honest with me. As long as it's off the record. Get them on camera. All of a sudden, we're getting
You
we're
get
gonna try
coach
our
speak, yeah.
best and all of that stuff. But I can't. There have been some assistant coaches for you guys who have given me some ugly facts about Plano East and just things about
And maybe you hadn't heard elsewhere or whatever, or you
just,
had.
or just how much better talent we had that year, and then you guys just out-schemed us and whipped us that specific game. And it's one thing to say that, but here's some footage. Here's this. Here's what we did. Don't be sharing this with your coaches, but we did this. Every time we hit this guard, we double teamed this guard. We flew them in. We could just. It was a guaranteed 3-yard loss every time, and y'all never brought a tight end over to compensate for that sort of thing. And we just knew that anytime we wanted that, we had it. So you can talk to coaches like that and get those kinds of relationships on a deep level. And I had to talk to a coach last night who was just telling, I can't say his name, but
That's fine.
was almost talking about how depressed he was in this situation. Like, I think we have a good team, but is anybody ever going to see me, see us here because of the program I'm at? If I can take this team to 5-5, I've done something. No one's going to care. We talk about some of the psychology behind that, and coaches are humans at the end of the day, and if you can break down that I got a win barrier, you can really just have some very impactful conversations, because they are making such a difference in coaches. I mean, we know all the big names, but there are so many coaches doing so much work at programs you don't even think about with kids you don't even know
Yep.
that are for the world, for the betterment of the world, 10 times more important than some of the stuff we talk about. And I've always enjoyed the underdog. Go to Plano East games every year.
How many is that in a row now?
Yeah.
How many games?
I don't have a number. I should keep up with it, but I mean, I'm almost at my 30-year anniversary.
There you go.
Which is
Wow.
interesting because one of the questions I had for you was, do you know how many high school football games you attended? You haven't been keeping track.
I don't keep track of that. I know some of the others. That was a big project.
Oh,
but
we're
I've
doing
forgotten
30 a year,
so-
35, yeah.
It's been so long. This was even before the proliferation of social media, where
Yeah.
I go back and count those
Track it,
things.
yeah.
But I know at my highest, I've gone to 80 games in 1 year.
Yeah.
Wow. That's a
So-
lot. That's a lot.
Yep.
There's got to be over 1,000.
Sure.
Well, and talking about coaches, though, when you look at a coach from the beginning of their career, it really is the long game. So can you talk about the interconnectedness of coaches? People don't realize that they'll take a snapshot right now, but there's so many people that have touched other people's and been in different programs. Can you kind of
The trees
talk about that a little bit?
amazing because I think we talked about the samples tree and how that has connected and how he's been at Lincoln and then Skyline and then Duncanville and you can kind of see those elements there, and then some of the assistant coaches have offshot. And you have Jason Todd who won the state title. Brian Brazel has really created the tree. And the Allen tree, you can think of Tom Westerberg and you think of Fleener and Kane and
Which goes back to actually Joe Martin.
yeah, Joe Martin
Right.
Started all
and then
that.
connected
Yeah.
with and how he even you have the guy over at Garland, Jeff Jordan,
Yeah.
and kind of
Yeah.
how that kind of created that stuff, and it's all interconnected.
Yeah.
And one thing I'm kind of fascinated by, and maybe you'll correct me on this, is I feel like when you brought in Lee, there's real no connection. I mean, maybe you'll know something. Oh, he knows this person, this person, this person. But
Well,
I think you're
there's a
getting
couple
fresh-
connections, but
The only thing he told us, I don't know if you listened to the podcast with him, was that he and Gamble were good friends. But as far as if you look at the coaching staff this year,
Yeah.
the varsity coaches, it's complete turnover. And so that tree just died
right.
for the first time. Even there was some hangover last year when Morris came in. There were some leftovers,
yeah.
At least at the varsity level. The JV and the freshman teams still have some continuity, but yeah, the whole varsity level is all new coaches. And like James said, we're starting to see alumni come back, which is pretty cool to see. We wish they had some eligibility in certain positions, but that's really cool. And Lee told us, and this is so important, he goes, I'm an outsider here. And he's done a very good job of reaching out to the community, to
being humble.
learn
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah.
This is Alan. What about it? What's your role in it? How do I fit in it? What can I do to fit and to be successful? And that's been pretty cool to watch.
And I'll be honest, I'm a little worried about Lee, not because for any specific reason. He's a great coach.
Yeah.
He to be the president of the Texas High School Coaching Association has to be respect.
Sure.
But Allen is a monster that you can't prepare for.
No.
There's a one. You got Elizabeth Holman, Allen one. And
Yeah.
then even with the Plano schools, those are 2 to 4, and then everybody else is half that size. It is such a management. How do you prepare for that? We're college is about the only thing you could do, and we saw a lot of college coaching. And, obviously can't pay coaches $800,000 a year at the high
Or
school
help them
level.
maintain their their big
Their
ticket.
lifestyle.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. So it's just such an unknown, and that. So and this would be with anybody. I don't think you could bring any coach in the state of Texas where I wouldn't have this worry about can you manage the monster that is the Allen football program.
And I think that's a very fair statement, and I think it's fair for anybody you would have brought, like you said, even if it was a returning Allen assistant. Now, they would have the advantage of knowing the system, but they've never run it.
Right.
And so even then, their roles change significantly. And they've got to get out of the role they used to be in and take on this new role. So, yeah, he's got a full plate, and I think he knows that, which is one of the reasons he's doing a lot of things he's doing to try to help alleviate that. And then to put on top his role as the president of the high school coaches association. I'm just like, dude, bless your heart. Let us know how we can help you, because it's.
And it's really going to come down. I think if you see, and it's kind of a double-edged sword if it happens, if you see this iteration of Allen get right back up there into dynasty status, I think it's going to be because more of the assistant coaches were so great, and he picked the right guys who were future head coaches. But once you find those guys, they get all of a sudden just like you think of the dream team back in 2010 with you guys, 4 or 5 head coaches from that.
Supporting cast. It's got to be strong.
And that is so true, because to me, and again, here we go with opinions again, the best leaders, coaches, head coaches are the best delegators. Yeah. They know who to put in what position to not only have the right person in the position to do what they need to do, but it makes your job a whole lot easier too. I tell people that work for me, your job is to make my job a little bit easier, and I think that's true at that level too. And so, like you say, did he pick the right people?
Yeah, and time will tell with that. But I think of him how he was at Midlothian, and then Midlothian Heritage opens. Let's take on a new challenge.
Right.
Let's
build it.
up.
Yeah,
let's build it up. So obviously he loves that, has a passion for that, and he's left Midlothian Heritage. It's a fantastic program now, and they're going to be a top team. They're keep moving up 5A Division II, and they're going to be fun to watch this year. Just even without him there, so I think he's probably viewing this as the ultimate high school. He's the ultimate, Texas high school president. Now he's basically the president of Allen Inc. As far as that goes, and that's what it's going to take.
It will be fun to watch. Now again, as Chris said last week, and I went back and looked this week, and I'm like, okay, I got to agree with him here. Allen's got an SEC schedule. They really do, and the fan base has to understand that, which they don't, because they never do, because it doesn't matter who you're playing, it's win or lose, because God bless him, Kyler Murray ruined this program in that way. Yeah. Because he set the bar so high, and I've said this for years. Yeah. But that's the bar. And, like Allen went 11-4 last 11-3 last year.
11-3, yeah.
And, you lost in the state, your regional final to a very good team. And that's happened before, but you would have thought it was the end of the world. Chad Moore sucks. Well, I don't get it,
And then the short-term memory of that the week before, what y'all did in Trinity.
Yeah.
It was like
exactly.
that was everything coming together.
Yeah.
All of the frustrations and this is going to work.
Because when you go back to the year before that, when we played Trinity, and the disaster that was, give up over 500 yards rushing or whatever it was, and like, what in the world? And then to say, okay, that was the second round of the playoffs. And here we are in the 4th round. Okay, that's progress, even though you had some bumps along the way. You lose a game at home, lose to Prosper. Prosper was a very good team. I mean, Prosper almost beat Geyer in the playoffs. They had that opportunity.
And that was their state championship game, whatever. Rush the field, the student section, they're just on top of the world. I think in talking to coaches and talking about coaches, if they worry about the right things, and it's character issue type things, and it seems like Lee is the type of coach that really does that. He cares so much about the players and cares so much about how they're doing, how they fit in, that if you worry about those things, a lot of other stuff takes care of itself. If you get the right coaches, delegate properly.
Let the coaches coach.
Right.
That's their job. You can handle all that other stuff.
Yeah.
And let the guys do what they're supposed to be doing.
But at some point, and I worry about this with the new Plano East coach as well, when you're at Midlothian Heritage, you can know every player.
Right.
You can know their family.
Right.
Can you really know all 550 from freshmen and know those stories?
Not in the time frame that he's had.
Right.
Because he came in so late. He's done a very good job, because I know he visited with every single player. Of course, he went and did that. That was one of his first things. And I kind of joked with him. I said, "Yeah, you went and told every parent that their kid was the best player on the team."
And it's like, no.
Just kidding him about that. But yeah, the answer's no, but eventually he will. Because like you said, when you settle in, get everything delegated, you'll have time to go to the 9th grade games, to the 8th grade games, and to see what you have in the pipeline, rather than just hearing about it. Eventually, I think he'll get there. Now, the question is,
go ahead.
Do you have patience?
True.
The standard is so high here, and they know that. It's just like what Chad Morse told us. We had lunch with him 10 days after he was hired last year, and I asked him the question, why Allen? And one of the things he said to us was, I feel Allen is very, very good, but I don't think they're elite. I was like, wow. That was an interesting perspective that I don't think anyone ever said to us. That's my goal, to make Allen elite. Now, that ain't going to happen in one season, obviously, but that was where his mindset was. Okay, what do I need to do to take this program from way up here, way up there? So hopefully, Coach Wig has got that in his mind as well. Let's talk about specifics here. One of the things I wrote down here, a couple of things. Who's the best player that you've seen? And you can list 2, 3, 4. I know that's a hard.
I mean, a lot of people always go to Kyler, and rightfully so. I'm drawing a blank on his first name, but there was a linebacker for Abilene. He broke Riley Dodge's collarbone in that game, 2006, and they let Alexander. The linebacker people will tell me who he is, but he was such a game changer in Abilene in 2005 or 2006 when they won their state title, ending the South Lake Dynasty.
Yeah,
he was the player you saw.
Okay.
And then I also think of Nikita Whitlock for Wiley.
oh my gosh,
I mean,
nose tackle.
Just found a way, into a play every game. It's like when you're a quarterback, you're the one who's got the ball every single time. So you talk about some good receivers and some good running backs, but they may not have the ball every time. I look at a defensive player; they have the chance to impact every play, every opportunity. And Nikita Whitlock did that. The guy for Abilene did that, and then Kyler Murray obviously did that because he had the ball every single time and he would not lose. I mean, how many situations was he in where you're like, this is it? And then I'm sure y'all had the confidence. Kyler, you gotta just wait. We're down 21. Just wait. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, here it comes. And just that will to win and single-handedly change a game is incredible. So those 3 players are always kind of my 3 defaults, but I kind of lean toward the Abilene linebacker and Nikita Whitlock just because everybody knows Kyler. But you might not remember Nikita Whitlock. But if you watch the game with Nikita Whitlock in it, you know Nikita Whitlock. Yeah.
And running back for Plano. Rex Burkhead.
Superman.
Oh my gosh.
He was
such high character and just such moves. Kind of like McGuffey, except beyond. And he's still got a career. He's still playing, right? With
Texans.
Yeah. He's that kind of player.
That's awesome.
Kind of guy you
and
want on your team.
Number 11, your linebacker that was playing in 2004 or 5. Oh, what is his name? He went to the league. Number 11.
2004 and 5.
2000.
I should know this, but
I think he was playing in that 22-17 game. Anyway.
We've had some of that.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. But there's been some fantastic players.
Step will tell me about what he ate in 2009 before a game, and this morning he got 5 touchdowns and all that, and I'm like, was I at that game? People just have different kinds of eidetic memories as far as that goes. Yeah. But I actually wanted to. You mentioned Burkhead, and that kind of, reminded me of your coaching question a little bit in the coaching trees.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of what did Plano in. Was,
really?
You had Tom Kimbrough, and you had all those successes. And for a while, the coaching tree at Plano West, Plano East, and Plano were all from that thing. Yeah. And that system quit working. Yeah. And nobody pivoted away from that. Surely we got Brent, we've got McCullough, we've got Mike Hughes over at Plano West. Surely, we just stick with the system and it will get success. And Allen out Plano, and did it, at a scale that we've not even seen in a while, and that system quit working. If you look at Plano now, it's all new coaches.
Yeah.
And it's going to be, I think it's going to be fun because all three of those coaches will have time to build their programs. And I think we're going to see better days from Plano.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it was very badly needed.
Yes.
I mean, what parents put up for so many years, I was just dumbfounded that they let that go on for like that.
When it seemed like once the Plano system got a true 2 high school feeders into the senior highs, that was helpful.
It was.
The senior high principals have a lot of control, don't they?
They do.
So that's a little bit different than maybe some other programs and how other programs deal with it. But,
and how, and Coach Jackson, who came over for the 1 year, he came and saw just, hey, why can't we get 9th graders practicing with us? Why is that not happening? Well, just that kind of stuff. And now a lot of his stuff, has been put in. He came in and saw all these problems that we needed to have. Why don't we have alignment? Why are the 8th graders running completely different offense than the 9th graders? And then why is this happening? Well, this principal wants to do it this way, and this principal wants to do it this way. And I'm the coach. You should be able to do this. Who's this coach in 8th grade, and why can't I do anything about it that they're not running my system?
Yep.
Well, that's 3 layers of administration above us. I'm sorry. And it can be infuriating when the Plano way quit working.
Yeah.
And it did. It dried up, and it's tough. And again, all the Plano schools being Allen district for so long, we had no problem beating up on them. It was kind of
It's fun
expected.
for y'all. Your Plano State championship.
Yeah, doggone right. James got the shirts.
When did that quit being fun for you guys? Because at some point it was fun, but now it's just like.
I'd say fairly recently, because I was dogging on Plano for the longest period of time. We want competition. I mean, we want everybody to be good. It only makes us better, and for them to be as poorly coached, same plays, you knew exactly where they were going every time, and it was just unbelievable.
I think it was different by school, because if you look at Plano, when Burkhead's last year
Right.
was the last year Plano beat Allen, and then it went downhill from there, and it was sort of a given. Plano West, until So-So got there,
Right.
was pretty much a layup. When So-So left, layup again. And East has had its moments. There were times when East, to me, had just as much talent, if not more, but didn't perform enough to win. And I think there have been a lot of times too, of course, the last 19 years, where the talent level just wasn't there. But my biggest thing with all 3 schools has been coaching. Especially for Plano to not get out of that whatever year offense that they ran over there forever. I'm just like,
forward pass.
Look around you. It's quite obvious you're not Trinity.
Right.
And when Trinity won their state championships, they had those special players. Brandon Carter. He obviously was, talented. Ollie was talented even though. But when they don't have that talent, and Plano didn't have that talent, they weren't even competing because they wouldn't get out of that offense that allowed them the opportunity to compete. When you get down 28-0 with that offense, you're done.
What was it? Was it last year that not a single Plano school made the playoffs?
It's been a couple years now. Plano West made the playoffs when they lost you guys in the first round
Right.
a couple years ago, but that was the last Plano team that's made the playoffs.
That's unheard
I
of.
think the one in like the last 4 or 5 years. That was the one team in this last 5-year window that has made the playoffs.
In a district, to me, that they should really compete. I think getting out of Geyer and Allen and Prosper.
I think that was a healthy move by the UAL to do the realignment that way.
And so, go do it. Whatever it takes, get it done.
And I've had some coaches talk about the Louisville ISD. This is a much better alignment for Plano than a northern alignment. I mean, even last year, Plano East was within 1 score of 5 of their district games. I mean, they had Louisville on the ropes.
Very competitive.
And
Yeah.
they lost their running back, and they just couldn't finish it up.
Love that kid, by the way. Great.
Izzy.
He played so hard,
He did.
you know, and I tweeted him both years and said, dude, keep up your hard work, because obviously he was great. You said that. Something I was going to ask you. Flew right by me.
Real quick, while you're thinking, your dump. Tell us about your dump so everybody can kind of get in on that. You do that on
Friday
Friday nights.
at midnight for older people. Saturday morning. What it is, 12 a.m.
and your forum that you do it on
It's
is
Twitter.
Okay,
at
all right.
Professor Diggs.
at
And
Professor
I
Diggs.
basically, I start at 3-6A, and I talk about how every game is impacting the district race
Right.
and how it impacts the playoffs.
Yeah.
And then you go to 4, and you kind of put together this puzzle, because you know
Yeah.
what's happening in 4 matters for 3, but what's
Yeah.
happening in 3 and 4 matters for 1 and 2.
Yeah.
It also matters in the third round of 5, 6,
And
7,
so, how do
8.
you organize that? Do you have kind of like a sheet that you fill in and you track everything, or
Yeah, I just start at 3-6A, and I've got a spreadsheet, and
Yeah.
I just start going through that, because 3-6A, Trinity will be D1, but you know how
Yeah.
some of the other things go. If it's Saginaw, if it's Boswell or Weatherford or North Crowley,
Yeah.
and I love watching teams build up. And North Crowley has been a team that they might make it to some people's top 20, 25
wow,
this year.
that's
because
good.
Of they're growing, and those are the fun things to watch. And people just think of 3-6A, it's Trinity. But I care about how Weatherford is progressing out there in Parker County. You would think Weatherford, just being the little brother of Aledo
Yeah.
for so long,
Yeah.
they're due. It's like Lovejoy. Lovejoy being the little brother of Allen for so long.
Yeah.
Certainly, they're going to be somebody at some point. Now here they are.
And growth is impacting all areas of North Texas area, or
Melissa,
the greater North
coming up
Texas. Oh my gosh, yeah.
And then you go through. Just go through all of them, and I usually by 2 a.m. I've said everything I've wanted to say. It's like Forrest Gump. That's all I got to say about that, and that's all I've had to say about it. And I have bits in there. I have fun things that like Tolar, the Rattlers, the little Hood County team. They're Hood County's favorite team.
Yeah.
Then my wife went to Celeste, so I always got to talk about Celeste.
There you go.
And how they did. And then there are some teams I'll always poke fun at, like Plano West, and their 500 team, 500 attendance crowds.
Oh, man.
How does
Did we
Plano
have fun
West
with that or
not
what?
How do they do that?
I know.
Yeah.
It's just the craziest thing. How can they not draw? They have a school of 5,000 people and can't get more than 500 people to a game.
Yeah.
Even when they were good, even when
Yeah.
they had so-so and going
Yeah.
3-4 deep. 500 people at their game.
Yeah. That's
They even
amazing.
They even tried to bring a live DJ. That was the first time I ever saw a live DJ. I don't know if y'all remember that.
I don't know, but they had the best cheerleader dancer ever.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
I
Yes,
happened
he
to be
was.
videotaping. There was the guy on the sidelines. He did a jump split, and we were all just floored, just shocked.
Oh,
It was amazing.
It was a while ago.
Yeah.
Wow.
But now, I tell you one good rivalry. We went to the Plano.
You hear it on the podcast.
I got you. I got you.
Bam.
No, we went to some of the Plano rivalries. So we went to the Plano West game, and it was the color, where they do the baby powder, but they had the colored talc or baby powder or whatever. And each side, Plano West had their blue, and Plano had their
Pink.
red, pinkish red. But there was a good attendance for that game, and the student sections were a riot. So that's what I love. I love
Even
seeing
now,
that type
Plano's
of
still
stuff.
best one because
Yeah.
of that tradition and history. They're just waiting. Like there's going to be
yeah.
an undercurrent.
There's some
that will come
pent
out
up-
of Plano,
Yeah.
if they start doing well. I don't know if this is going to be the year they're going to do well, but
Well, they're heading the right direction.
they're
Yeah.
New coach.
from out this way.
New hope.
Yeah. It's lovely.
New hope.
I'm excited about Plano East this year, though. I think Plano East has a legitimate chance to make the playoffs
Yeah.
in that fourth spot because, again, we talked about the district. There's so much parity. They're only a touchdown away. If they can turn that touchdown around that they didn't get last year, where they were a touchdown with Flower Mound, touchdown with Hebron, touchdown with Louisville, touchdown with Coppell. They get that touchdown this year.
Yeah.
They're 4-3 and in the playoffs.
Who's their non-district schedule?
They got an easy one. They got Rowlett, Naaman Forest, and Rock Hill. So we'll get a little bit of a calibration with.
That's
Yeah.
always good for a mindset too.
Yes. And I don't know why Joey decided to schedule you guys last 2 years. I know Tom Landry Classic, bless
Well,
their heart.
Last
He
year,
had no
what
choice
happened
last
was
year.
We were scheduled to play Guyer, not last 2 years ago, we were scheduled to play Geyer in the
Backed
Landry,
out.
and then they threw Geyer in our district. So it was a last minute.
Yeah.
We got
Oh,
to play, and that's how it
adjustment.
happened.
Yeah.
So I don't think he wanted to.
2-year
but-
commitment. And
Well, and if you listen to Chris last week, nobody wants to.
Right,
You know?
yeah.
So it was just like, I got to have a game. Here we go.
When you're a building program, you got to learn to win,
Yeah.
and that's where it starts out with. So that's not to overlook Rowlett, Naaman Forest, and Rock Hill if they're listening to the podcast.
Indeed.
We're not overlooking you guys.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it'll be a competitive game for all three of those
Yeah.
teams. Can say, oh, hey, we can get some momentum. You know, how
Yeah.
great would it be to beat a team like Plano East? And Plano East is like, hey, we have a chance.
Yeah.
Because they had Allen and Lake Highlands 2 of their first 3 games
Right.
last year, and those are 2 pretty salty teams, as y'all
Yep.
saw with Lake Highlands in the
Yeah.
playoffs.
Yeah.
Pretty good the last couple of years. So it's good to have a non-district schedule that is competitive.
Yeah.
And that'll give them a chance to build up some confidence. Even if they don't win every single game, they'll be in every single game.
Yeah.
And that's important. I know we were in the Allen game for about a quarter and a half last year. You had that 21-21,
Yeah.
kind of a shootout kind of a thing. I can only imagine what your brains were doing when
Finally.
that was happening.
You know what we're doing? We're sitting over the saying, quit playing with your food. I mean, how many times do
Yeah.
we say that?
Yeah, all the time.
And there's so many teams that do that. They play down to the level of their competition. Yeah, it's good to have a district schedule like that as opposed to John Bosco, C.E. King, and Arlington Martin. You know, it's like, go wow.
And I think you guys are really, I mean, I don't think a lot of people are talking about McKinney, because especially because they got last year,
Yeah.
but they
Yeah.
are really good this year. I mean, they got one of the best triplets with
Really?
they got the cornerback from Frisco Liberty and Luster who transferred over.
Right.
They've got the consensus #1 running back as a junior, and they got 2 just fantastic receivers. They would start, they probably, I don't know about the quarterback, but I mean, the running back and the receivers would be your top guys here. And they're going to be good this year. And you already know what you got with Prosper. You already know what you got with
Mhm.
Geyer. That is going to be a district loaded for bear, because we're ignoring Braswell and
Mhm.
Boyd in that conversation, who
Yeah.
are also going to be equally good teams with even probably a little more depth than McKinney. It is, like you said, it is an SEC schedule.
Yeah.
Everybody is trying to get up to that level, and one bad week could completely
Yeah.
sink a
Yeah.
team
You're right.
in that 4 to 6 range. A team that could, legitimately go 3-4 deep might not make the playoffs because
Right.
just the way.
Yeah, we've seen that improvement in McKinney and in Boyd. Geyer and Prosper. Prosper's an interesting team to me because their quarterback's coming back, if I remember correctly. They're becoming my South Lake version 2
Yes.
is what they are in my mind. I'm beginning to put them on that Mark's most hated list pretty quickly. And
It
isn't
brings up
because
similar feelings for
It
sure.
isn't because they beat us last year. It's just how they carry themselves. I get old man syndrome kicking in. Really hard here. But I wanted to get into that a little bit with you because you are putting out on Twitter your top 20. You've done it for 5A, and now you're doing 6A. Your top 25, and I don't know what time it comes out every day. I don't know if y'all got a standard time, but
About noon.
about noon. And so today's probably dropped
Yes.
already, and that was number 5.
Number 5 are Allen Eagles.
There you go. All right.
Which is,
You're
Let's-
happy about
let's
that. That
stop
shows
right
the
here.
in my
problem
mind, I think
things.
that's fair.
And
That's a
let's
fair
talk about
analysis.
that, 'cause
Yeah.
We we see things with rose-colored glasses. Although I think we are probably 5 or 6 of the most level-headed about it. We're not
You
coaches.
guys have always been.
We
As
try
far as
to
I
be.
have known you,
Yeah.
you've always been fair about where you think Allen is going to be. I think you
Yeah.
probably predicted, if we were, if we went back and you'd probably be able to predict 90% of losses. Like, you probably knew when they were coming.
Yep, and I think that's because we're objective and we don't see things from we're not players' dads,
Player parents, yeah.
and we're not as critical as football dads will drive you insane at times.
But those are
You
the
know.
funnest ones to play with. You talk about playing
Oh.
with food. You just get on Twitter and start messing with some football dads.
Yeah.
We
That
have them
can
in
be
person.
fun.
That we,
But I want to hear your assessment as I'm gonna call you an outsider. I think you know as much as anybody about them. But what's your assessment going into this year, given the schedule, given the talent level, given the new coaching staff? And I haven't seen on Twitter yet what you said about them yet, but just what your thoughts are.
I mean, Allen is always, talk about what an elite team is, and I would be shocked, for instance, if this year if Allen won a state championship.
Okay.
But I would not be shocked if they're playing December football, and that's the difference that I feel like, Allen, the expectation that Allen has, that's not good enough, just to be able to play December football. But I think you can pretty much pencil in Allen with their talent as a 3rd or 4th round team just about every year.
Yep.
But then you look at this year, and Allen stayed at that kind of high level. They got the quarterback coming back. They lose Hicks. They did lose a running back late in the off season as far as that goes. But you have another good running back. I've never seen that problem with depth at lineman or running back with Allen. That's kind of just next man up.
Sure.
Always able to do it. Same thing at receiver. You've had some really really good elite receivers in the past, but your 6th and 7th string receivers. Pretty good, I mean, you've got the talent
6th and 7th
that can handle that. So when
that
I
was a shot at us, by the way.
I know.
See, that's the psychology professor coming out in here right there.
Hey, who better to do it?
Is going to be good. So you look at their district, and I think Geyer is just across the board just a little bit better. But they have the home game this year, so if it was here, I'd probably.
The home game last year too.
It happens, but I think that for Allen, you guys play on the road well, but there's just a mystique about playing at Eagle Stadium. It is the experience that as a fan sitting for the Plano East games, it's overwhelming. I mean, you've got the horseshoe kind of a thing. It's just all around you. Student section doing their bits, double layer, and the single layer there. It was a well thought, intimidating thing. Kenny spent more money on their stadium. People don't talk about that, but it is nothing.
Yeah. Well, there's just concrete
That's
costs
the
went
crown
way
jewel
up.
of Texas high school football.
Yeah, the crown jewel.
But they got better LED lights. They got the whole
They
thing
do.
around.
Yeah, but the seats right behind it you have no leg room. I mean, it's like squished.
It's all about the food. So we'll talk about
It's all about
food in the booth.
So Geyer has a slight advantage. I know Prosper beat guys last year, but I still think they lost a lot. It was a very senior-heavy crew. And Prosper, the difference between, they were 1 loss away, because I think they lost to Braswell last year. They're 1 loss away from not even making the playoffs, even though they've made it to the 4th round against Geyer the last 2 years.
Because they played, if I memory serves correct, they were playing Boyd the last game of the year, and it was nip and tuck for a while.
And they had to win that game to make it. So for me, I think Geyer and Allen are my guaranteed playoff spots. I put some big money on them making the playoffs.
Right.
Even with Prosper, I'm not. If they mess around with Boyd or Braswell or something, all of a sudden, then Kenny gets them. They're on the outside looking in. And then so I look at that, and I look at the depth, and Allen to me has. And I think we'll see in week 3 when you guys play Martin. That's going to be really opening up the doors, because you might see them in the playoffs. Which I thought was kind of weird that you were talking about last week with Chris Cumnock. You don't want to play Duncanville because you might see them in the playoffs. Yeah. You could probably see Martin in the playoffs. So I don't know what this. Again, I know Wigginton wasn't the one making that schedule.
Sure.
But, whoever with Morris or whatever assistant coaches did that schedule, I don't know if I would have scheduled Martin, because you're probably going to see them 3rd round of the playoffs. Yeah. Pretty consistently, depending on how that goes. In fact, I've seen a projection that's got Allen and Martin in the regional finals as that projection. So I think Allen regionally, depending if Southlake stays out of D1, I think Allen has the chance to be the best D1 team in Region 1. But again, there's about 5 or 6 teams that are packed, but you have to go with the team that has been there. Because you look at Martin laid an egg last year.
And that's because we for years, when Wager got over there, we loved him. We just thought his intensity, the way he went about things.
He's dynamic.
Forever,
a long time.
Forever.
Just innovative play calling and just
for them not to talk about teams that you look at and say, well, why aren't they better year after year after year? Now they're good. They'll go 8-3, 92. I'm gonna give them a little playoff win there. 8-2, 9-1, 7-3. They get in the playoffs, and it's like, what happens? What happens to them? and then that's a team I look at and say, I wish for Wagers, because, he made the move because Texas high school football was where he wanted to be. You'd like for him to be able to.
But Martin just doesn't have the talent or numbers. I mean,
Yeah.
they've got Taviano this year, who's going to be a top player, but his son is going to be playing at running back. But you look at their linemen; they might have 2 or 3 good linemen that can play, but then it kind of goes down from there, and they just don't have the numbers and the depth. But he is such an innovative coach. You will see 3 or 4 wrinkles. I don't know if you remember a couple of years ago in the COVID game when they just completely beat the dog snot out of Louisville. It was like 50-0 in the second quarter with onside kicks and special teams and all kinds of things. He just kept doing it. Like, just keeps working. Yeah. It's going to keep happening.
Last thing we need is a Kevin Kelly back in Texas. Oh my gosh.
So you see them as Allen being potentially a regional finalist, for sure.
And that's kind of where they fall into the thing. I think Duncanville and DeSoto are going to be 2 of the top teams in the area, but you're not going to have to worry about them depending on how that, because there is a scenario where DeSoto could end up being in D1 depending on what happens with Waxahachie, and that's what we were getting back earlier. What happens with Waxahachie, Lake Ridge, and Cedar Hill matters for you guys. And all of a sudden, that Lake Ridge Mansfield game becomes important for you if you want to see DeSoto or Duncanville or 5th round if you're projecting that far out.
Yeah.
And I think Southlake is Southlake. They've got their quarterback coming back and their running back coming back. Great lines on both sides. Riley Dodge is doing a fantastic job over there. But I think Southlake takes a step back after this year. After Caden Anderson and Owen Allen graduate, I mean, we may see some new players in the pipeline this year, but I think
they always surprise.
Always surprise. I think they'll kind of come back to where Allen is this year as a team that they'll make playoffs, go 2-3 deep. But who's going to be that player that takes them to that next level? As of now, I haven't seen anything in the pipeline where I go, I'm excited.
And that's what you look for, is because you never know, somebody you may not even know of at the moment might be that spark, or might be that player that breaks through.
But Allen has that chance next year to be that special program with as much youth as they're going to be playing.
They are loaded, sophomore and below.
Yeah.
I mean, we got I guess he's going to be a sophomore tight end that has every offer in the world.
Yes.
Look at that and go, oh no, a sophomore. You're actually starting to get him as a freshman. Another freshman that's going to probably play on varsity that already has D1 offers. There's a lot coming up there. And I know you've been listing your top 25 on Twitter, so I won't ask you, but that's only for the DFW region. Right. So when you look statewide this year, same guys, same players?
It almost always is. I mean, you talk about Westlake and North Shore. And that crew, I know they lost Daddy Dodge to retirement, and there's always, to me, I always feel like a coach does have to prove himself. Salazar over there, it doesn't matter the pedigree you come from, because when Joey McGuire left Cedar Hill, they took a step back, and they still haven't quite got up to that level. It may not be anything to do with Coach Lynn or his fault. It could just be talent sold high kind of thing. But you have to kind of earn that position. I don't think just because you have a program, you're guaranteed to do well as far as that goes. And I said that about Wigginton. I want to see how he fits in here, because sometimes you can have the best coach at the best school, and it's not a good personality fit for whatever reason. You just have to see the experience. I didn't think Riley Dodge going to Southlake was going to be a guaranteed thing. He has the name. But he started, he's earned his stripes. And it took to beating Duncanville 2 years ago, they had to get what I call a signature win. Yeah. And there are so many teams you can start to look at when has been their signature win. It's one of my terms. Yeah. It's like when you think of Allen, when's the last time y'all would beat a team that you were universally unexpected to beat? It's been a little while. Yeah. But you've had a couple of losses, especially with Rockwall a few years ago, where a team kind of got y'all. Yeah. So, I wonder where the signature wins. Bosco might be a signature win.
The problem for Allen is there's not that many teams that would consider a signature win, and you got to get to them.
You got to get to them, but when you get to them, can you beat them?
Yeah, and I don't think they've been put up to that task. If you look at it, when they won state championships, they were the better team.
They were the better team.
Yeah. I go back probably to the DeSoto games, or maybe the Duncanville game where they lost. That you get a talent level that's comparable to you look at it and say, okay, this would be a challenge to beat this team. But if we beat them, is it really?
Yeah.
It's hard to get to that point.
It is.
Yeah. But you're right. Bosco may be that team.
And I know some coaches have felt like I'm unfair, but it's kind of a hard thing because I think of Denton Ryan.
Yeah.
Denton Ryan has had some incredible talent on the field. They've won all the games they were supposed to win, but then they run into Highland Park. Highland Park bumps them. All of a sudden, and they had 15-1, 14-2, 14-1 seasons where.
And how much of that's coaching versus the talent versus
all that.
Yeah.
And you've got to get those signature wins, and those are what you build your resume on. At least in my eyes, I'm sure coaches say different things. And when you have a coach who consistently gets signature wins, I even think of McBride over at Boyd before he retired. He kept knocking. He had 2 or 3 of those things where he would get a win where he shouldn't have got that win. And again, when you're more middle, there's more teams you can do that with. But that's still something to say with your pedigree. And Allen, as a program, they haven't had that signature win in a while, where everybody expects them to lose and they come in and win that game. As you said, we talked about that you could probably tell 90% of those losses. When's the last time that this is it? Then all of a sudden you come out and you win. Maybe Trinity might have been last year. I know some people were picking Trinity. I picked you guys.
It was DeSoto.
Yeah, I mean, he's talking about that we knew that we were going to. I think it was. Last year's South Lake game, I really didn't feel good about. Even though you felt good about Trinity, it's just never been a good matchup with South Lake. Now, I know we beat them a couple of years in a row, but you had Kyler. I hate to say we had Kyler, but he was such a difference maker, especially in games like that. I think what we haven't seen in Allen, and this is not a knock on kids because talent is what talent is, but what I would call an upper echelon or elite defense. Hicks was helped last year, but since 12 and 13, when you had Christian Sam and you had Tay Evans and you had Chad Adams.
Yeah, the 2 outside linebackers, and then you got the safeties and Chad Adams. And
you can really count on your defense as opposed to having to have your offense bail you out.
I mean, Jalen Jones, who almost single-handedly ended up pulling out the Westlake game, with the interception in the end zone. And
so,
Naomi Olutu, sorry.
That has been the issue that I look at when I look at these guys. Okay, what can our defense do? How many stops can our defense get? Our offense is going to be okay, but when you play a South Lake, they're going to be solid across the board. You know that. So are you going to get a break? You're not going to get a break. Is your defense going to hold up to? Because they're going to put intense pressure on you from the offensive side.
Do you have speed to stop the pass? And you got to have more than just one speedy, safety DB. And do you have any pressure that you can put on the quarterback?
This is why I think your SEC schedule really benefits you because watching Allen in the past, I mean, y'all are very liberal with your substitutions after you get to that comfort level when you're up on Plano West, 42-7, and second quarter you got your second and third teams rotating in, and this is going to force you guys to play your top 22, maybe top 30 with some depth in there a little bit more, and I think that could create. It can't hurt for that end. So I think that could be very helpful for the playoffs. And I think that's one of the reasons why you did so well last year, kind of because you kind of got hardened with the district. There was no easy wins. Even Little Elm was the team we thought would be a much more improved team. I think they're going to take a step back this year. They got a new coach over there, and good coach, North coach coming over there. But they're still going to have to. It's going to be rebuilding for them. And Rock Hill, I think it's going to. I think those are. The bottom end will be a little on the bottom side. But 6 strong in that district is going to give you guys some good pushes.
Which will be fun.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's going to
be entertaining. So how many of them are you coming to? So the Geyer game.
I might go to the Geyer game.
The rest of them are probably a Friday night. You got East to do.
I will come to your stadium for Lovejoy College Station.
Awesome.
Yeah, we'll be there too.
Speaking of stadiums, you mentioned earlier you wanted to talk stadium food because that's where when we had Steph on. He talked about that. He talked about it. What stadium served the best food to the media?
Mesquite,
you've been to.
Yeah, Mesquite always caters out, so you'll get decent food there. For me, the gold standard in this area is Wasatch. Lumpkin Stadium is just everything you could want. I mean, they bring in torchies and Mr. Jen's and homemade pies, and I mean, you can just completely, like 5 or 6 just main entree options. A lot of places, they'll give you a sandwich.
Sure.
Allen's horrible.
I've heard that.
You guys are horrible. We might get a Chick-fil-A.
Robin Bullock, did you hear that?
You got lots of room to eat your Chick-fil-A.
Well, it's sponsor. That's part of the problem.
Well, and then you get ambiance. The press is a little. Yeah.
We can ask. I don't know if she cooks it.
You got a culinary program in Allen.
Yeah.
There you go.
There you go. I mean,
Talk to the
We
chefs
haven't
at
heard from
Blue
her
and
this year yet.
No,
yeah.
That's we do know Chef Denman very well over
Yeah.
at culinary school. So
Maybe we'll have them come up with some extra treats.
Why not have that as corporate synergy as far as having?
Yeah.
Not a bad idea.
I know.
Yeah.
But is it going to happen? Probably not. We're going to get
Well,
a
it
Chick-fil-A
may not
sandwich
happen
and
this year, but
stay
give us
along
some
with
time to
us.
work on it. Everybody, don't be
Yeah.
one of those gotta have your instant gratification.
But again, I know you guys don't like bureaucracy as far as I can tell a little bit about that. So isn't that something you could snap your finger and make it happen immediately? Like, we don't need to get 10 levels of approval for it.
The answer is it should be that easy.
It should be.
It should be.
It probably isn't, but it should be. There's a lot of things in life.
I think it's, as we would say, respectfully request as opposed to snap our fingers. But yeah.
Yeah, we tread lightly over there at times too. We're not as
You are the big daddy, James.
I don't know.
You can make things happen.
I don't know about that. Certain things we can make happen. Other things, we got to work a little harder at. Yeah. So talk about press. So we talked about press box food a little bit. Talk about press box. I don't know, ambiance or issues. Etiquette. Sometimes
To be honest, I don't love the press box that much.
Yeah.
2 years ago, because of COVID, I had to compromise with my wife. She didn't want me really even going to games.
Yeah.
But I wanted to go to games, so I told her I'd sit in the crowd for that stuff. So I really enjoyed it. It was fun to sit in the crowd.
It's a totally different experience.
It is with the bands and all that, and to me, I almost wanted to stick with it. I mean, I don't even like the sidelines. You can't see everything from the sidelines.
Right.
We agree with that.
I don't like being on
definitely.
the sidelines for games. I know some people love to go down there and video and
and that makes sense.
Yeah.
But when you're really trying to observe and watch and comment on it,
Right.
it's not the best place to be.
Yeah.
Because when I'm watching a game, I like to, first drive, I like to kind of start to look at the lineman battles and who's getting the push, and I can almost instantly see, okay, this team is bullying this team, and it's going to get ugly real quick because this thing is happening, and then I start to kind of look at, okay, are the linebackers flying to the ball, and then I start to kind of just immediately start to go piece by piece and look at kind of the matchups as I'm getting my big picture of that. So you need to be higher up for that kind of stuff. Press box ambiance to that end, it's hit or miss. I mean, you got Allen is kind of notorious for having fans cheering in the press box, and then sometimes you have some very dictatorish press box. Shut up! We don't do this. We don't do that. So you kind of got to know the scenarios.
Press box Nazis.
You said it, not me.
And some that are uncomfortably tight and small. And how did this person get in? And
that happens, and you kind of know that. And like for instance, I will not go to a Birdville game at Birdville, because they have a 2-person press box. It's like put these 2 chairs next to each other.
Wow.
That's your box. And you're gonna have the Star Telegram who will be there. Probably a morning news person. That's it. That's anybody else wants to go. Good luck.
You're out of luck.
Yeah.
So I certainly consider that as part of things. And other press boxes will go out of their way to take care of you. Ski, Keller, they'll put you in a luxury suite. So I'd absolutely consider those things. But some press boxes are fun. Like you want to go and hang out with that. The Forney game. We all went to. That was a fun press box.
Dude, was that game not great?
That game was great.
that was one of
For
the.
those of you who don't remember last year during the playoffs, we all went over to Forney to.
It was regular season.
Was that regular season? We went to the playoff game too.
Yeah.
It was like a Thursday night, like
Yeah, it was.
Thursday night, triple overtime.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And we were down in the field for the end of it,
Yeah.
which it all happened right in front of us, which made it so. And just talk about the atmosphere. The atmosphere that he's got going on at Forney right now is incredible. And
the buy-in from the band and just
And the
running
student
band
section.
down
Oh
and
my
all
gosh.
that
Yeah.
as we're getting to overtime. That was just something that you can't replicate.
No.
You couldn't have scripted that any better.
the kids chanting Fleener's name, wanting him to come
Him
up
doing
and up on
the
fence.
stadium jump and That's Friday Night Lights in my
On
mind.
Thursday.
Yeah.
On Thursday.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the environment that makes it. You don't get in the press box for sure.
I always tell coaches, they're like, "How are you going to come see me? Schedule a Thursday night game." You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of the
It's almost a
because
guarantee.
There's only
Yeah.
so many times you can. Friday has so much going on. Even if I wasn't going to play these games.
Yeah.
But-
You can only choose one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
you can only choose one.
Exactly.
And we picked the right one.
Yeah.
We did.
That was a good one.
Yeah, we did. That was fun. That was fun, except for after the game when Jared Miller.
Aw. I know somebody was going to be
principal
disappointed.
At Crandall last year, who's now gone to Anna, a good friend of ours, Mary Lynn, being head trainer over there, says, "Hey, we want you to meet the head coach."
Oh,
Well, he had just lost a triple overtime game.
he was gracious. He was
and I
gracious.
felt so bad though. What do you say to him? Sorry, coach. The game.
So we moved over to Anna.
Jared did.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yep,
Jared
yep.
And Mary.
I
Mary
find
Lynn.
that
Mary Lynn are
interesting
both
for
in.
reasons you probably know, but we don't need to talk about.
Yeah. Yeah.
We'll talk about that off the air.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
It just adds layers of interest to that story.
Anyhow, we appreciate you being here.
He turned red. We got Mr. Tomato Head. I promised it would happen.
A smaller Mr.
All
Tomato
of a
Head.
sudden, the list got real short.
Yeah,
All
man.
of a sudden,
We'll mark him off.
There
Well, and
here we go.
And before we get out of here, I want to talk about national rankings and all that stuff because we used to have Dallas Jackson. We used to have a bigger national. Oh, I know. He came and visited for a while, and there was a very robust national kind of chat sites and stuff, and everybody was kind of poo-pooing the national rankings and stuff. I think Dallas did about as good a job as I've seen anybody do in terms of analyzing national. So.
It's horrible. I mean, it would take, not to completely puff it would take somebody who loves football like me or Steph to be able to do something like that.
Yeah.
And now you're just not going to get it at the high school level. It's somebody who is able to do it and really analyze the games and kind of go, okay, Allen versus Bosco, you got Duncanville versus Orlando Jones, and start to calibrate those things.
Yeah.
You could, but I mean, you would have to have somebody who's really, really passionate to get national rankings.
So anytime you see the Max Prep top 25,
to be fair, Max Prep is horrible even statewide. So it's just numbers. I mean, they don't have any analysis. Just and their analytics formula is not good. I mean, we have some really good computer polls.
Yeah.
You got Carl Padilla, who does the
Padilla polls.
Pigskin Prep does the Dave Campbell stuff.
Cal Preps.
You got Van Miller.
Yeah.
They have a service. So Texas really has some really good services and really good formulas, and people are running ELO formulas, and even Massey, the guy who used to be when the college rankings were partially computer poll generated, he does some Texas stuff, which is crazy when you start looking at some of those analytics. And a lot of people don't talk. I think there's value into that, and it does get bad because as you guys know, not all blowouts are the same.
Right.
It could very well be you guys took the foot off the brake in the second quarter, and so it's not necessarily a true value. And I've seen you guys give up late touchdown. I don't care. All of a sudden it's 52 to 38, and you're just like, we beat it was 52 to 7 at halftime. Who cares? So computer polls, it's garbage in, garbage out as far as that goes. But they can still provide some pretty good predictive value, and I think more people should use them for the value that they actually provide. But Max Preps, it ain't.
Yeah. Well, and so, I saw that you had us at 5, and Max Preps has us as 5 nationwide, and I'm thinking there's no way that Allen is number 5 nationwide.
Yeah.
Don Bosco, okay, number 1 nationwide.
Well, and they do that to get hype for, because they put out their top 10 games of the week for this, and there you go, you got 2 top 5 games.
Yeah, all of a sudden, magically,
whatever.
It's not a platform I would want to stand on because it could fall away very quickly.
But is Allen a top 50 team in the nation?
Yes.
Absolutely. No, come on, Mark. Put some confidence in
You know what? I love our
I'm sitting
Eagles.
here telling you, I think Plain Lisa's going to make the playoffs this year. And you can't.
I'll let you stand on that limb by yourself.
You can't even give me the confidence that you think Allen's one of the top 50 programs this year.
A lot of times when you don't have a lot of returning starters, there's just so many questions that have to be answered. that's one of the years, especially with a changing coaching staff. It just makes it that much more of a question mark for me. Hey, I'll root for them. I'll be at every game. It's just a matter of it. Before you get out of here, we want to give all our guests
A little bit of swag.
the Balding Eagle magnet, the Balding Eagle sticker. You can put this on your trash can if you want. I see your Eastside shirt. You
Yeah.
can bring us Eastside shirts. But
That's the B-side shirt right there.
Yeah.
It's where champions are built.
Didn't we just have the discussion?
Underachievers.
Well, it's building.
It's a long building process. But anyhow, we thank you for coming, and we
Thank you
appreciate
for
all your
having me.
insight.
It's been a pleasure. It's
You bet.
been
We'll
awesome.
do it again.
We'll do it again, and I know you're going to have a big milestone coming up, so I'll see you. I won't be the main event on that one, so I know you'll have a lot of guests, but I'll see if I can sneak in and
We'll get
Say
as many
hi.
people as can get here for our 100th podcast, which will be coming this year. So that'll be exciting, and we'll try to have a big round table that day. So we appreciate you coming by. There you go. You got 'em. Now let's see where they end up.
Yeah, go Eagles. Go Eagles.
send you a
Picture.
of where
There
that-
you go.
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
God.
You can put it on Twitter.
Garbage,
That'd be funny.
garbage trucks driving by.
That would be funny.
City bus.
You guys, there's a guy who draws things.
Yep,
Is this the-
Randy
Bridges.
This
Yeah,
guy-
Randy Bridges.
He did that.
He is immensely talented.
Yeah,
Shout out.
He is.
And
Really
if you,
is.
of course, you won't be out in the stands, but if you go to a lot of the stands around here, there's a lot of Balding Eagle magnets stuck on the stand.
Random spots around town.
Restaurants.
Katie has one too.
Yeah.
So
We're not going to say where it is. But
we appreciate you coming. We
Thank you
appreciate
for
your
having
time, and guys, until next time. Actually, we may do a next week. I got to plug next week. By the way, we are going to have the basketball coaches here.
That's right.
Sip and staff will be here. Wanted to get them in before football season started because we get busy with football and they crank up and we just don't have time for them.
Right.
So they're coming next week. We'll also talk a little bit about the scrimmage, which is Thursday night at North Crowley.
Right.
We'll be down there for that, and we'll have our thoughts on what we see. It's a scrimmage, but we'll give some thoughts as we get
Hopefully
ready
we
for
can
football
win the
North Carolina
scrimmage.
scrimmage Mesquite won this weekend.
season.
Oh, really? Okay.
So you
Wow.
get some footage on them early.
There you go.
Scouting them.
Do some work this week. Until next time, guys, it's over, and we are